Hello and welcome to webmastercampus.com. In this tutorial, we are going to learn Python port scanner using threading. Okay, we have already learned in last 3 projects how we can create Python port scanner using different techniques like the basic connect method. Then we learned using the socket.bind as well. We saw several 3 methods, but in this is going to be the most elegant and the faster way to build a Python port scanner. In the minimum time span, it can calculate the open ports, okay, or figure out the open ports. Okay, let's go and understand this. First, let's create a new file. I am already in the Python projects folder, and inside the port scanner, I'm going to right click, open and Python file. And let me call this project 4 because this is the 4th project and the last one in the port scanning series. Before writing any code, let's understand the requirement. Okay, then we will understand what is threading. Let's go. Okay, what's the requirement of this project is Python port scanner to find out open ports in 121.025 range. So we have a very specific range available. We will find the open ports within this range. Then we will display and save open ports and any errors happen during the execution of program into a file. So we will display on screen and also save the open ports and errors into a file. Okay. The third requirement is calculate start and total execution time. Display on a screen and save these timings into a text file. This is the requirement of this project, and we are going to build project and fulfill all these requirements. All right. So first, before starting this project, let's understand more about threading. Python port scanner using threading. So what is threading? I will briefly define this. The main purpose of multi-threading is to provide simultaneous execution of 2 or more parts of a program that can run concurrently. So what happened during your normal or standard programming? When you write the code, first code execute, then the second code, the third part of the code, or sequentially it executes the code. So there is a drawback in this one because until the first part is going to be completed, then the next part will start. Okay, then the next part, then the very next part. So this goes on. But what happens if something an independent process that doesn't depend on anything? If this can be calculated or this can be run simultaneously, that can be helpful. Threads are independent. If an error occurs in one thread, it doesn't affect the others thread. Example of multi-threaded applications are web browsers, like you are opening using web browsers like Chrome, Firefox, okay, and Edge, and you will see it, like you open Google in one tab, Bing in another tab, you are checking a Gmail, you are opening YouTube, multiple websites. So web browser is a best example of the multi-threaded application. Like each independent threads are working. One thread doesn't affect the other threads, so they are independent and works closely. The next example is web servers. Web servers are listening multiple requests from the users and they will be serving independently. So web servers, also example of multi-threading. Then computer games, like in computer games you are seeing the aeroplane is moving and the ball is coming towards to you. There are animation independently working. You are playing with the game. So this is also an example of multi-threaded application. Finally, IDE, like we are working in the PyCharm. In PyCharm, you can see while we typing, PyCharm is also checking the syntax of the Python. It raises the error. We are just editing, also writing the code or running the code. So these are so multi-threaded application purpose is to provide simultaneous execution of 2 or more parts of a program. Let's go and start writing multi-threaded application for Python port scanner. So we are going to import some libraries first. Okay, I'm going to import socket, then threading, okay, then I'm from date and time, import date and time. Okay, so these are, let's write down the host first. Okay, let's take the host from the user, and let's fix the value. I'm going to calculate localhost. We will be checking how we can take the input from the user, and let's call this host IP. And in the host IP, we are going to use socket.get host by name. We will provide the host name that we have, which is localhost. Okay, let's see this, what we are getting. First host and then print host IP. Okay, and this is going to be calculated. If I'm going to run this, you can see we will get the result, localhost and the IP address. If you have any other, let's say bing.com. Okay, let me save this, execute it. Here we are. So it will give you the Bing IP address. Okay, we are fine on this one, and I'm going to keep this simple, right? You can also put this inside a try catch to make errors safe. Okay, like this. Okay, you can also type except socket.gai error. It is for if we are unable to find the host, then we can print the message like host couldn't be found or available, something like this. You can write down. It happens when you provide a wrong address which doesn't exist, so obviously you will face the error. Like let's call Bing 1212 something and type an address. I hope this address will not be existed, so it will generate the error host couldn't be found. Okay, so it's unable to get the IP address or the location of this host. We are good on this one. Now let's define a list. I'm calling this threads, and it's a list over here. And this is let's define a dictionary. In this, we are going to call this open ports, and it's a dictionary. That's why I use the curly brackets. Let me press Alt 1, and this will remove this, and Shift Escape, and you can use Alt 4 to hide the run navigation. Okay, that's cool. We have more space over here. Now let's go and define a function, and this function we are going to call check ports, and check ports will receive an IP, a port, and the delay duration, and we will use the open ports here. Just input the colon. So we are just trying to build a function that will, every time we will call this, it will just check the open ports, is port is open or not. So we are building a particular function for that purposes. Let's call this a sock variable. Define a sock variable, socket.socket. We are using the same socket.af underscore inet and socket.sockstring, and this is, I have already explained you in detail, but let me do this one more time over here. Let me open the project one. I have the definition over here. I hope this will work. Close this, and so what IFNet is, IFNet means we are going to use the IP4 addresses, and AFNet underscore 6 if you will be using, that means you are going to use IP6 addressing. IP6 addressing address the vast range or the more bigger range than the IP4 addresses. We are using sockstream. That means that we are using TCP, and if you want to use UDP, you can use DGRAM. It's all up to you which you are going to use. You can further explore about this or Google it. So let's focus on building our functionality. Then we are going to define using the sock variable set timeout, and we will provide the delay, the value of delay that you are going to provide while calling this. Let's call this a result and sock.connect underscore ex, and in this one I am going to provide the IP and the port to check if particular port is open for this IP address. If result is equals to 0, that means this particular port is open, and I'm going to call open ports within this port number. Like this port number, I will just print the value and open. Okay, so it means that we are just storing the result in a dictionary, and this dictionary will contain all the open ports, port number, and a message that is open. Okay, it's all up to you which one you want to use it. So we are good so far. Let's call a dry run of this program. I am going to call this check port, and I am just going to first provide the IP address which is available in host IP and the port number. Let's find out what the status of port number 1, and then we are going to delay. Let's call this 0.01. This is the delay, and the open ports is the variable that the dictionary that we have. So we just call this information. Once this will call, I'm going to print the open ports and see what it will have. Okay, it's generated the error because we are using a host which is not available. That might be the case. Let's call the local host and let's build this again. So you can see it is just giving us empty. Let's try to figure out what's wrong with it. So the error is because we are just sending the port 1. Port 1 is not open, so it is closed. We are not storing any closed port information. That's why it's giving you this value. Let's try the port number 80 and check. Here we are. So port number 80 is open in my system, as I know about this, so I just provided the specific IP, but this is only for individual ports that we are testing. What we need to calculate or to find out the open ports within the range of 1 to 1025. Okay, 1025. That's the range that we are looking. So what we are going to build, we are going to call this functionality using the threading. Okay, let me remove this and let's do by calling the threading for. I'm going to use for loop, and within for loop I'm going to use port in range, and in the range I'm going to call like from 1025. This is the range that we are going to look, and let me press Alt. Okay, and let's close this and try to. Now let's create a thread variable, and in this thread I'm going to call threading.thread, and in this threading.thread is with the capital, and then we are going to call this target, and in the target equals I'm going to provide check ports. This is the function that we are calling. Just remove the brackets over here, that it automatically puts write down the arguments that we are going to pass the value. We are providing a IP address which is host_IP, and we are going to provide the port number which is between the range, like the port number will contain 1, 2, 3, all these values. Then we are going to provide the delay, which I'm going to take 0.001. This is the delay I am looking forward. And then we are providing the open ports dictionary, so our results will store in this one. So this will call with this function every time when we call creating a thread. The thread is bind to this check ports. So every time you start the thread, it will call this check ports. Then what we are going to do, we are calling this threads.append, and within the append we are just appending the individual thread that we are creating within this for loop over here. Okay, we should be good in this one. Now I'm going to create another for loop, and in this one I'm going to call let's call the index, or let's call this I over here in a range, and in this range I'm going to start from 1 0 to 5. This is the range again with this, and I'm going to use threads dot, first let's define the I in the brackets dot start. We are going to call the start function. So this will start the individual thread, and we are creating 1025 threads for on individual ports. We are creating it. Then once we define that, we will just join the threads into this, and we are just joining the thread. Okay, once we create a thread object, its activity must be started by calling the threads start method. So we call the threads start method, as you can see over here in the code file. We are calling the start method. It means that we are starting the thread. And what about then what we can do? We are doing over here, we are just joining. Join means all other threads can call a join method. This blocks the calling thread until thread whose join method is called is terminated. Like it's it just want to make sure that these threads not going to remove or terminated before the main thread of the program. Okay, so that's why we are using it over here. I will provide the link, you can further read about it. So we are starting the thread, and our individual threads will join in a sequence, so to make sure that they all finish before the main execution of the program. So far we are good on this one, and now I hope this will calculate all the open ports, and the result is available in the open ports dictionary. And what we are going to do, we are just calling another for loop and just providing a key value. Value will not be using, but let's define this, and then we are going to open ports dot items. So it will show we can individually access each item inside the dictionary. Then I am going to print the message like open port number. Okay, and open port number, and just pass the str to just convert the key value that it's returning with the string. Okay, and open port number, and that's it. So this will just display the open port values of our program, and I am now going to execute it. Let's see what it's going to. So it is saying that the index is out of range. Okay, why it is giving the error? Because we are just appending the threads into individual thread into threads. Okay, and it is going to be started from the 0 location. So what we are doing wrong over here, instead of writing this, we should access 0 to 1024 for this index problem. And this is perfectly fine, because when you are dealing with the list tuple in the Python or in any languages, array or the list always start from the 0 location. So once I replace or change this, let's see, it is going to fix the problem. I'm going to, and it will show you all the open ports in our system. You can also watch carefully like this, how speedy this is. It is much faster than the previous 3 projects we have built. Now let's go and calculate the time. And the one more thing I am going to do to make this, I am going to convert this individual for loops into a function. Okay, let's call this scanning ports, and we will just provide the IP address to it and the delay, and this is fine. Now I'm going to select all of this, just press the tab so we should be good on this one. Okay, and now I am going to call scanning ports host underscore IP, and the delay is 0.001. This is the delay that we are looking. Okay, instead of fixing the value, let's define it from here and type the delay over here. So this is now dependent on the value that we are going to provide into this. Okay, and host IP is the IP address that will assign into this. And let's keep this host IP same, because I already using it in the host IP over here. Okay, so we should be good. Let's check this, and this is fine, and it is still working. So now we will just call this function, and it will call the complete functionality. This will make our life easier because we can easily calculate the date and time. I am going to call this let's call this the same start time, and start time I am going to call date and time dot now. This date and time dot now will give us the start time. What we needed over here, we need to print this start time, and I'm going to call start time colon brackets dot format, and in the format I'm going to use start time, so it will just display the start time. We are calling the start time before the execution of this scanning ports over here. Let's select this start time, and I'm going to call the end time and the total time, and this will be our end time. Okay, this will replace it over here with the end time. This will become the total time underscore total time. We are going to replace it, and total time will be the end time minus start time. Okay, so and we are going to display the total time. Just call this total time, and here we are. We should be good on this one. So we are calculating the time. Let's but let me give it a space. I think it will be fine. There's no need for this, but let me do this. Okay, we are good on this one. You can see it is showing that the start time is this, the start time, the end time, and hooray, you can see it just took milliseconds to figure out all the open ports in my system or into your system when you will be executing on your machine. So if you remember, in my first project when I developed it took around 15 seconds. In the second it was almost same, but when we use the server.bind, you can see that server.bind using 3 to 4 seconds, not the minutes, seconds, and here we are now in the milliseconds. We are calculating the duration. Now the next thing that we need to do this is filing. Like we need to store all of this data inside a file. Okay, that's the tricky part, that we are going to do that. Let's call this a file reference, and open method I am going to define a double quotes colon double quotes, and this one I'm going to call port scanner. Instead of 3 I am going to write it 4. This is the 4th port scanner, and let's open this in write method. So this will be open. We will close this reference when our work will be done, and I'm going to call file reference dot write, and in the write method I am going to use the same messaging that we have over here, like this. But remember, just put the backslash n, not needed now. I'm going to use it over here and over here. So we will just put the information backslash n. Let's give it 2 times, so more spacing, backslash n. You can use it, or that's fine. Let's use 1 time. That might be a bit confusing, but now once we calculate the total time. What we can do over here, we can just provide, let's first see this, then we will run it. We are good on this one. Let me open the port scanner 4 that we have, and you can see it is giving only the start time because we didn't change the variable. We are just still calling the start time, and this is going to become end time. Total time, here we are with the total time, and this should be good now. Let's call this start time, end time, and the total time. Now the next challenge is to display the open ports. And to define the open port, what I'm going to call this, I'm going to provide a file reference over here, just passing the file reference, and this is the file reference that we are scanning, and I'm going to put it file reference over here. So the file reference go inside it, and I am going to use this file reference dot write function and just providing the open keys like this over here. So instead of open or loop over again and again, we are just giving the information, and we should be good on this one. Let's do one more change. In the start file, I'm giving a \n1 over here, so it will have just more spacing, and adding a \n over here, this will give a more spacing. Okay, now let's execute this. We are good on this one. Let's check. So our open ports just come in the exact sequence that we are looking, with the start time and the end time. So we are good on this one. Now let's make it more interactive. Just instead of fixing the host value, I am going to ask the user for the host. And what we can do, we can call the input function and write down the message, please enter host to scan. Okay, so it will give the host name from the user. So you can type any host name like Google, Yahoo, MSN, anything. You can take it from the user and it will display. While scanning the ports, and maybe an error can happen, and you can definitely try to secure it with the try and except. I am going to use a try to catch if there is any error happen during the execution, then we can definitely control that. And I'm going to write gai socket.gai error. Okay, and in this one I'm going to use print statement, and in the print statement you can pass the information, something like this you can use. You can also use one more, except socket dot error, and this is for generalized error. If there is any error, then you can say socket error happened while maybe host is down or something. You can give the message. This error usually happen when something wrong with the connection. So this is the complete program that we have developed. We are good on this one. Let's check it one more time, www.google.com, and here we are. Maybe Google have blocked my IP addresses, so let's try again the local host, and I think it would be good, local host. Okay, we are good on this one. I hope you have understand this, how you can build the Python port scanner using threading, and this is one of the fastest way to scan the port. You can customize it as per your requirement. You can just make it more better. Try it and let me know. Comment out if you need any suggestion, any error that you have find. You can definitely comment out and I will try to help you. Okay, thank you for watching this video. Take care. Bye.